call that the starting bell on what is going to be a really magical tour. Today we are standing in front of the tomb of Jesus, and we are going to take you on his final steps on that Good Friday. We're going to go on two alternates. We're going to go on the Via Dolorosa, which is the Catholic traditional path. We're also going to look at a couple of archaeological sites that indicate that maybe there was a different, more direct path that Jesus followed. But I'm looking forward to at least walking some of the steps that Jesus walked and seeing this beautiful city. We are here first thing in the morning. There was this really awesome opening ceremony, but I'm skipping ahead. So let's rewind a little bit back to stage one, and we'll get back to this in a moment. Hi guys, I'm Turtle.
And I'm Bear, and we are the Gallivanthropologists. We're a father-son team of traveling anthropologists, and we're going to be going around the world, traveling to over 100 countries in the next few years.
While we're doing that, we're going to promote cultural heritage and ecotourism and a little bit of food culture. So please like and subscribe and stick with us because we got a really nice destination for you today. Good morning and Good Friday. We thought this was the most appropriate time to put this out, and I am really excited about this. Even though it's a little bit long, it was really, really important to me, and I hope it's important to you.
Yeah, we had a wonderful time in Jerusalem, and we wanted to start out really early. So the next 2 days we were there, started out super early so that we could get to all of those sites and give you guys the best footage you could.
The story of Jesus' last day starts at the Praetorium, and the Praetorium is where he was brought in front of Pontius Pilate. So Pontius Pilate was in charge of the whole area of Judea, and they took him to his house, which was also a bunch of public buildings, and according to Catholic faith, that house was right here. And so there's a possibility that right here, where this church was built, is where Jesus was brought before Pontius Pilate, and he washed his hands of it and gave in to the Jewish desire to have him crucified. And so follow me for a minute. Let me show you a couple of these things real close. They exposed a lot of the original surface here, and of course built all their churches on top of it. There's a museum over here that opens up at 9 o'clock, and it cost 15 Israeli shekels to go in. We're going to see if this church will open up. The other church has a service going on, so we're just kind of leaving that alone and hoping that we can get in there in some time. But this is the area that I understand that they believe that it actually happened, kind of the stage of the events. And a lot of the surface here is that ancient marble roadway that would have definitely been here at the time that Jesus would have walked these streets. And I'm wondering what was here. Maybe like a column or something like that. But we're just kind of having a great time here. We've got it all to ourselves because we woke up early in the morning. There really is nothing going on.
This is the Chapel of Condemnation. This is where Jesus was condemned according to the Catholic faith. And there's a cool little chapel in here. Let's see if it's open. It's not. But there's some cool, beautiful art in there, and maybe we'll get a chance to see it a little later.
Ask and ye shall receive.
And right when he opened it up, it was just so peaceful. You know, it was a little small chapel, but it had some nice art, and there was no one there because we were the first people in there, and I think that really just made it so much more impactful.
Yeah, I enjoyed what it represents, whether it was where it actually happened or not. There was also over on the side this really nice 3D map of what they thought that the city might have looked like at that time. This is a map of what Old Jerusalem was supposed to look like at the turn of the Common Era. And so right when Jesus was here, this is their map of what they believed that the area looked like. And it's a really cool touch. You can see that it's very hilly here. We're actually standing probably right on top of, we're actually standing on what's supposed to have actually been the surface at that time. So this is an ancient Roman patio or road right here. And so whether or not this is where Jesus was actually condemned, this is a road that he most likely did walk, and that his contemporaries most likely did walk. And a lot of the value here is really just that association, and the association with a lot of really important things in the Muslim faith, and of course the Jewish faith. And I am loving this town. Could possibly be right where Jesus was standing. And by the time we were done in the one chapel, we could hear that at least the singing part of the chapel service had ended over at the Chapel of the Flagellation. So we walked over there and stopped and smelled the flowers and tried to see whether they were ready for us or not. They're just in there praying quietly. We're not going to interrupt them right now. Let's go take a look around.
And this is the Chapel of the Flagellation, where Jesus Christ is believed to have been whipped.
When we did eventually get in that chapel, it was beautiful. They had a lot of like gold gilded things, and then the piece de resistance is on top of where the altar is. And up on the ceiling was this beautiful representation of the crown of thorns that Jesus would have worn. And I think that's amazing. Even if you aren't into the religious aspect of it, going into the church and seeing that art was awesome.
And it was about time for us to get moving to the next spot, because we probably spent too much time there and it might have been getting crowded outside. And so this is just outside of the church we were just in, and this is where traditionally it's believed that Jesus would have taken the cross on his shoulders and had to actually walk with the instrument of his death all the way to Golgotha.
And it's not just about the actual stations that are marked, like station 1 through 14, because there's all these other buildings and different routes that some people believe Jesus may have taken instead of the Via Dolorosa. So make sure you look online and check out some of those alternates as well.
This is another option for where Jesus might have been tried here. It's called the Holy Sepulcher. And when they're not having an actual ceremony in here, I guess you can go in and then go down below and get down to a cistern that's also from that exact period, so that you're back down on the Roman road. Because one of the things about all of these places that we're going in these like next few stops is that they're really about 20 feet above where it would have actually happened if it actually happened there. So getting down onto like the actual road that was there when Jesus was there is a little harder than just walking along this road.
There's a few options as to which place that Jesus was actually tried, and this is where the Greek Orthodox believe that it was done, and they call it the prison of Christ.
We're standing here at site number 3 and actually site number 4 on the Via Dolorosa. Both of these are Catholic traditionally held thoughts. They're really not in the Bible, but so supposedly this is where Jesus first falls under the weight of the cross. And you would have to think, after being whipped that many times, if you're carrying a cross, that it's definitely a possibility that he would have fallen, and maybe fallen 3 times. Whether it was here or not, we don't know. Another important thing that the Catholics believe is that this is where Jesus first sees Mary during this really trying day, and his mom comes up and she greets him and hopefully gives him some comfort after he had just fallen down. There's some really nice restaurant in through here. It really isn't much, but a restaurant, and there's a church through there also, but it's locked. We're going to keep going on. Really enjoying this.
This is station number 5. This is where they believe Simon of Cyrene helped Jesus carry the cross.
There's a really smoothed out rock over here that's exposed, and this is supposedly where Jesus put his hand to rest as Simon was taking the cross from him. And my understanding is they think that it made an indention. Couple of archaeological issues with this. It could have been raised from below, but it doesn't seem like we're standing in the right place. It would have been much lower than this if this is what happened here. And just like the common sense to me, if Jesus puts his hand on something and it caves in, I'm probably not going to crucify him. One good thing about coming this early in the morning is one of my friends who had come here a couple of years ago said that what would bother me the most is that there'd be so much pressure for people trying to sell you things the entire roadway, and we haven't run into any of that yet because most of the shops are still closed right now, and it's got a certain semblance of peace. The only other people really out here are locals and a few of these tour groups that are going from site to site. Station 6 is another one of these that isn't exactly in the Bible, but it does hold a lot of sway with the Catholic religion because this is supposedly Saint Veronica's house. And Veronica had compassion on Jesus, and she came out and she wiped his face with a cloth. And it's said that the radiance left an imprint of his face on it. And there's a couple of places across the world, Constantinople and Rome, that claim to have that or a portion of it, and it's supposed to be in his likeness, which I think would be really cool to see. I would love to see it. I don't know if it actually happened here, but there's this really cool rock here that essentially says, this is Veronica's house. So Veronica, if you lived here, or whoever Veronica is, if you tried to do something for Jesus, that's commendable.
This is the 7th station. This is the Justice Gate of the ancient wall, and they actually would post little posters of people who were being condemned here on this wall.
This is also a place where the Catholics believe that Jesus fell for the second time.
So this is Station 8, and this is where the Catholics traditionally think that the women who were wailing over Jesus were here, and then he talked to them, and he said exactly, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For the days are surely coming when they will say, Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that have never bore, and the breasts that have never nursed." Now, some people believe that he was actually talking to people who were sad, and that he was talking to his supporters. Others say that there was a tradition where they would pay mourners, and the mourners would have to sob as the people who were condemned came by. And then maybe he was kind of telling them, hey, be real, this is a really important time. It's not the same as all the other times. But either way, they got this cool cross here. This is what you're looking for. And then they have their traditional marker up here with the 8. And I really like these. They were apparently added recently by a local artist, and they seem to have all those like renditions of him talking to people and things like that. I wish they would have put Simon of Cyrene in here, because he was likely carrying the cross at that point. It would have been a little bit more accurate. And we're going to backtrack a little bit. That's one thing about this spot. It's kind of out of the way. We're going to head over here to Golgotha and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. We're finally here on Golgotha. Site number 9 is another one of those Catholic traditions where he supposedly fell for the 3rd time right on the hill where he was going to be crucified. It's marked by the Church of St. Anthony behind me. We're going to go in and take a look around, and then we are on to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The thing that I like about this church, just specifically just externalizing all of the Christian side of it, is that there's Greek churches and there's Russian churches and there's Ethiopian churches and there's the main Catholic church here, and then even the courtyard shares a wall with a mosque. So you get like a representation of all of the people for whom this hill is sacred, and you don't get that all over the world. So this is Queen Helen's church here, and Queen Helen was the mother of Constantine, and she's the one who influenced him to turn the Romans into a Catholic state. Supposedly down in this cistern, she actually found the cross of Jesus. Now that's problematic archaeologically a little bit, and there were a lot of different crosses. And there were, even before that period, pieces of the cross supposedly that were everywhere. But either way, this is where she was presented as the place where Jesus was buried. Now, archaeologically speaking, that's actually very supported. So this is the first area where we are supported by archaeology. The most important part of that is that Hadrian comes here about 100 years after Jesus has died and risen, and he puts this like pagan temple on top of where Jesus was buried, trying to cover it up. But archaeologists have actually found that temple here. So as far as archaeology is concerned, these next few little stops are most likely the places where all of these things happened. And so it gives a little bit of a more gravitas type of thing, and hopefully we'll be able to get into this later, because we're here early, and that's why you can actually hear me talking.
So we had to go a back way to get to number 9, and that's where St. Anthony's Church was. But then we couldn't really get to where the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was. We did find a cool Ethiopian church, and you guys are gonna have to watch next week to see that. But in order to get to the church we were trying to get to, we had to backtrack, and luckily we could see the minaret from the mosque right next to it.
We're standing in the main courtyard of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and each wall here essentially is a different denomination. And then right behind me, you can see a minaret, and so this is a mosque. And so it's always guarded here, sometimes more heavily than other during holidays and things like that. But we're going to go ahead and head into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre right now. And if it's not too crowded, we'll do some filming. If it is too crowded, then the main trick for this is that it opens at 4 o'clock in the morning. So maybe we'll be time warping till tomorrow morning at 4 o'clock so that we can have it to ourselves. But we're going to go in and check it out now anyway. Up on top of this stairway, just before you go into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, is station number 10. And it's held that this is where Jesus was stripped of his clothes, and that the guards were playing bones or rolling dice or whatever they did at that point to figure out who got his clothes, especially because he had some really nice clothing articles.
Because it was like the middle of the day, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was crowded to say the least. There was just people everywhere. So we decided we would come back.
And for those of you who are Catholic, if you want to fast forward, there are chapters here. If you go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre section, which is in like 20 minutes, then you can just do the Catholic Via Dolorosa and call it a day. For those of you who want to stick with us and see the alternative that most archaeologists believe could have happened, you want to head over to the Tower of David next. We're standing in the location that most archaeologists would argue is the start of Jesus's day or last day on earth. This is Herod's palace, and this is the archaeological remains of it. The argument is that the place where it is traditionally thought by the Catholics that the whole thing started and he was tried and he was whipped and all those different things, it seems like back in the 1st century that was more of just a watchtower, and it was very small. And the odds of Pontius Pilate using such a small area as his house, because it says it's the Praetorium and it's his house, was slight. And so they're saying that the only thing that they've found that's of the right size for that and close enough to Golgotha is Herod's palace here. So it's more likely that in an open area surrounding this palace is where he would have said, I wash my hands of all this, and turned Jesus over to the Jews and had him taken to be crucified. And it's actually a pretty straight shot over to Golgotha from here, but even just the depth and the way that this is preserved makes it at least feel a lot more like that, instead of having a bunch of new churches and everything built on top of it. I don't really have a horse in the game, but this feels to me like something that would probably be more appropriate for Pontius Pilate. So this model is going to show you kind of what we were talking about. Essentially, we're at Herod's palace here. From Herod's palace at this time, you're within the wall, and you would come out, and then you would make your way over through this gate, and then when you come out this gate, this is Golgotha. All right, and so you've got a very direct route here, as opposed to the other route, which were kind of wound down in here. All right, and even here, it's really nice showing any large complexes that's similar to this. And so that's part of the archaeological argument, is that here's where Jesus started, and we don't know the exact route. We'd be guessing at this point, but somehow he made his way down to likely this gate, but possibly even he could have come through this gate right here, and that would have been even more direct. And so it'd be nice if we knew a little bit more of the stops. The only ones that we're pretty sure of as archaeologists are here and here. And somehow he went that way. And if we can, we're going to go by the pool here because it feels like that's the most direct way to go. And hopefully we'll be walking the actual road of Jesus. And if not, maybe we did it this morning.
And we headed up all the way to the top of the staircase to get a better view. It's probably one of the best views in the city. And also it kind of helped us map out where we were going to try to go.
So what we're hypothesizing is that Jesus would have gone generally just right along there. There's a side street there that we're going to try to catch. And that he would gone down here. That hole is that pool, right? So he probably would have walked to the right side of that deep spot, come over, crossed through the gate that was there at that point, and then right up to Golgotha. It's a lot closer. So we're going to attempt to walk the way we think that Jesus would have actually walked, and it's going to take us through town, and hopefully we won't hit any dead ends or anything, but it looked like there was at least an alley up here and to our left that took you down by that pool, and my back door get us into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So let's see if we can trace this, and we'll have our own Via Dolorosa moment, huh? So when you come down out of the exit from the Tower of David, which you see behind me, you're going to want to veer to the right and come by all these shops. And then we're going to try to make a left somewhere. We're making our way down further than I thought we would. I was thinking we would have a left by now. It seemed like above here is where that pool was, over here to the left-hand side, and that there was some sort of passageway in through there, but it seems to be blocked off. There's some sort of fencing up there. I don't know if it's military at this point or if it's separating two different neighborhoods, but it's looking less and less likely that we're going to be able to go where I thought we would be able to go here and walk the way that Jesus probably really would have walked, because it would have been pretty much directly that way to Golgotha. Right.
But maybe we can get a little close. I think there may be a left turn up here.
Yeah, up here by this other gate maybe. It's hard when you're working off of the models of what it looked like at that point to try to figure out what it looks like at this point.
Right. They've added so many streets and all these store buildings, and everything's gotten a lot more condensed. It's not as open as it used to be.
Got a little left here, so I'm thinking we're going to try to take it if it's an actual left. But we're tracking generally towards the Church of the Holy Sepulchre right now, and this is a much more direct route. But I actually think we still need to be over that way, Brendan.
Mm-hmm.
I would have really liked to have seen that pool that we saw, that it was there from Herod's time and it's still there. It looks like it's not used for anything at this point, just like filled in with junk.
Yeah, no, it didn't look like there was much of it left. It smells good. It smells like falafel.
Yeah. The food game here has been spot on. All right, let's go up here. I think if we can go up here and take a right, we might be back on our trail. So we're kind of ad-libbing now because I think that alley that I could see from above got cut off somehow, and we're going to be back on it here in just a second. This is a pretty old gate right here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite old enough,
No.
but it's going to be a gate like this that he would have come through to get outside of the walls again, because Golgotha at that point was outside of the walls. We're just getting more and more lost. This looks like a really old gate.
Yeah.
And that's a wall. Get to it? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to trace back this way. Do you know what this gate was called a long time ago? No, okay. All right, thank you. So based on what I could tell from the model and what I was looking at, this is most likely the gate that Jesus went out of to get to Golgotha. We're having to backtrack a lot right now. You can tell that everything's been altered. This gate was much deeper down at that point. We're in the right general area.
Right.
Hopefully if we track up here and back that way, we can get closer.
Yeah.
But all these buildings here were
Our
probably
houses.
not there.
Yeah.
So in that model, it looked like when you went through this gate, you had a pretty straight shot to Golgotha. And so it's very possible that this is where Simon the Cyrene would have actually been coming in this gate, is what I've read. And it makes the most sense that he was coming in this gate from outside, from where he was from. And then that's when they pointed him out, probably because he was black, is what they think. And they said, hey, you're going to carry the cross. Maybe he was just strong, but most people think it was because he looked a little different than them. And so odds are from here to Golgotha is not very far at all. All right, so maybe he was carrying it for a little bit longer, but this really looks like the gate, especially from that model that we were looking at. We're going to see if we can backtrack our way into something that takes us towards the Church of the Holy Sepulchre this way.
That's right next to the Coptic Orthodox Patriarchy of the St. George Convent.
Okay, so St. George's Convent, we'll check that on the map when we get back, but that's definitely an old wall there. And so from here, at one point, one of the walls, that was the outside of the wall, and what we're hypothesizing is this is the gate that Jesus actually went through when he went to Golgotha.
Right. You think that's the top of the gate, right?
I think that's the top
road
of the
would be
gate.
below
The road
us.
was probably at least 10 feet below us. And we're going back.
Yep.
Let's see if we can double around here. It's not looking good for us to follow the path that we think. At least we're getting to see more of the city by trying to find this path. So we're coming back down to that same arch where we take a left. My thought would be this building over on this side, I would say it's definitely a newer building. And so what you're probably looking at is the building you see kind of back into the right near where Brendan is, that this is the one that cut off the path, and that the path actually somewhere through here went direct to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, because spin around here, we're going to see Hadrian's Arch back here that gets you back onto what the Catholics believe the Via Dolorosa was. So Ecce Homo Gate, I think. Something like that, Ecce Homo Arch. So I think we've kind of run out of options to take this path. So maybe we spoke too soon. We found a little alleyway and we're gonna go chase it for a minute. This alleyway is hidden in the corner and it's more along that possibly direct route. You're looking at some very old buildings on the right here. Older than the ones we just saw. So it's possible that this alley has been here for a while. Perdonnez-moi. Pardon. Merci. I got to practice my bad French. That's awesome. Now we're going. You think that way? Okay. We're going this way, guys. It's in the right direction. We are blazing our own Jesus path. We should extract it. This one dead ends at a small church. So back to square one. This is like a big maze. I'm having a blast. We're gonna come around the corner right to it. Okay. Oh, yep. All right. Brendan's looking at signs. Good job, Brendan. That's how you don't get lost on a culture trip. Well, you know, like the good thing, Brendan, is if we walk every street over here, we definitely walk the way that Jesus did.
There you go.
Right? We got one or two steps in, and we're for sure about that. We've crisscrossed the whole entire path that he would have taken. So somewhere below us, Jesus touched at some point. So this minaret ahead of us that you can't see because you're looking behind us is there.
So yeah, we're almost there. It's right up here on the left.
We
So
definitely
we definitely went the back way.
did a zigzag.
Closer to the direction he would have gone.
Right,
He would have come in through this way in our hypothesis.
right.
Archaeologically based hypothesis.
If you have a drink every time I stick my tongue out during this video, then you will not make it through the rest of it. Here's the tower. And what we're thinking that they would have done, we ended up coming down from the tower over here, came here, got really, really lost, and had to go past it here. What we really needed to do is be able to take a road this way to come in there. But that road doesn't exist anymore because they've built a bunch of things like the Church of John the Baptist and some monasteries and everything. The Tower of David is right that way. And you can go out this way, but then it's going to force you to go right or left. And so we ended up getting kind of lost back in a bunch of back roads, but I still kind of feel like that gate we were looking at was still generally over here by the turns that we made. So I kind of still feel good about where that gate might have been. And the way that Jesus would have probably came from Herod's temple is blocked at this point and does not seem to be something that you can follow. I think part of that is because this city was built with some intention towards following the route that they traditionally thought. And so the reason that that's still open is because they would have intentionally left it open and they wouldn't have thought much about this. and you can't walk the exact steps of Jesus anymore unless you can fly it in like a jetpack or something. That would be awesome. Somebody get me a jetpack and we'll come back for another visit. Sponsorship opportunity. And by the time we finally made it back there, it was even more crowded. There were people everywhere. So we decided that we were gonna try a little trick that I heard about online and enjoy the night and get a decent night's sleep because we would have to be up really early.
So it's like 3:45 in the morning. One reason we're up early is because we couldn't sleep very well. The other reason is that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre opens up at 4 o'clock. So you can get there right when it opens, and then you don't have to worry about all the crowds, and you get to just experience it with, you know, maybe a handful of other people there. Here we are at the Holy Sepulchre. It's like, I don't think it's even 4 o'clock in the morning yet. We're just about to open up the doors, and there's no one here. So let's go check it out.
There are some benefits to waking up early, and I would say that this definitely was one. There was hardly anyone in there except for a few priests and some of the people who were in like this early tour, which was really nice because we got to explore the area, and there's a lot of pretty stuff to see, and you could see them starting to do their morning tradition. But once you do that, walk around a little bit and you're gonna find the Catholic stairs, and that'll actually lead you to Station 11.
So right through here, this is the station where they stripped Jesus of his clothing and they cast lots for it down on the surface there. You used to be able to walk right through here, but apparently for political reasons, now we go up the Catholic staircase, which was the spiral staircase. And there's a really important mural up on top here. Let's back up a little bit and I'll show you what this is. What you're looking at here is a mural of Abraham about to sacrifice Isaac. And according to Catholic tradition, that happened here, and that's important for what they're trying to bring across is that when you come right over here to the next site, this is where Jesus was nailed to the cross. And so the symbolism is Jesus taking the place of the ram, which took the place of Isaac. And so this is a very powerful place for them. So that the Muslims and the Jews would say that Mount Moriah is actually the Dome of the Rock, and that's where Isaac was going to be sacrificed. You can't get to that now because the section where they say that is right inside of the dome, and you have to be Muslim to go there, and in some cases you have to be Muslim just to go into the Dome of the Rock area. But this is really both beautiful. The mosaic work in here is maybe the best I've ever seen, and it's a very surreal place. And we've been really fortunate to be able to see it without a bunch of people. There are starting to be people coming in because a couple of groups have gotten here. So they're over here and they're doing their prayers. One thing about being here really early in the morning is you get to listen to the ceremony off in the distance and go and watch it. But another thing that's really cool is a lot of times when you come to the area where the cross was supposed to be laid into the ground, there's usually like maybe 5 seconds that you get in there and you touch down into the hole and then you pull out because there'll be a whole line up here. But right now, if you follow me, you can actually have a real experience with it. There's really nobody lined up there. So let's go check it out. We're trying to be quiet though because there's a lot of people praying right now. And so what you do when you come down in here is you pray. You can reach down and there's a rock down below that is supposed to be the rock that the cross was stuck into. Behind here is where he was actually put up onto the cross, and then this portrays them taking him down. This is relatively modern, and then it has him going into the tomb. And what they've got right here, this is traditionally where they believe that Jesus was laid to be prepared. People come by here and they pray here and they kiss this. There's a lot of power to that stone. Really fortunate to be here while they're singing and while they're doing the opening ceremony for the tomb, and really kind of to have it to yourself because you have a little time to just kind of be retrospective. You really feel the power here. And if you come down here, you can really see it's a beautiful piece of marble and right about the right size to lay a body on. I think they're pretty sure that that is what this is used for. I don't know if they're sure that this is the one that was used for Jesus. And we're back where we started. This is the final stop along the Via Dolorosa. It is probably the most archaeologically supported of all of the spots on this. There's a really, really good chance that what is inside there was raised from below this. And the reason that we know that is because Hadrian came through about 100 years after Jesus had died and risen again, and he decided he was going to build a very special building here, not to say, hey, Jesus was here, but mostly to try to cover up that Jesus was here, and hopefully in his world ethic, it would be forgotten. And it's this act that actually probably preserved the ability for us to know as archaeologists and agree with the Catholics that this is where Jesus was buried and where he would have risen from the tomb on Easter Sunday. This has been a really, really great time for me. I'm glad you guys joined in. When you come here, go to both spots. If you really want to experience what Jesus experienced, you owe it to yourself to be open-minded to either one being right. And it's kind of like the difference between a cultural storytelling tradition, which a lot of times can be really accurate, but you always want to test that with the archaeology. And I'm not saying we have a definitive answer here. It just depends on whether you have faith in one thing or have faith in another thing, and who that faith is in. I feel pretty confident that we walked at least on part of the path that Jesus walked on his last day and the day he was crucified.
Right, well, I'm glad that we got the chance to walk both ways and throughout all these alleys, and like you said, I think we walked a little bit of it, but either way, you know, this is something we've been looking forward to for a while. We've heard a lot about, and it was cool to see both angles of that. Either way, you guys need to come here, so I hope you find yourself here soon, and as always, find yourself on the journey.